Hello everyone. Welcome to another opportunity for us to share a spiritual practice together across space and time. I invite you to prepare yourself for this time and put aside any concerns or distractions for the next half hour or so. And for the next few weeks, I encourage you to prepare your space carefully so that it helps you to relax and focus and engage more deeply with your deepest self and with spirit. If you have any music that stills and inspires you, then have it playing. You can add incense, fragrant oils or flowers into your space. Light a candle or a few if that helps to center you. And include any symbols or significant objects into your space where you can see them and allow them to aid you in this time. Now prepare your heart, mind and body. Ensure that you're comfortable. It doesn't matter whether you're seated or kneeling or standing or moving around. Just try to ensure that your body won't become stiff and uncomfortable in any way that could distract you. Slow and deepen your breathing and still yourself so that you can enter this time gently and mindfully. Now take note of any strong emotions that may be demanding attention. If they need you to give them time, then feel free to do that and return to this practice when you're ready. Or you may find it helpful to use a container of some sort to place them in. You could take a literal bowl and imagine that you are placing your emotions into it to take them up again when this practice is over. Or you can use a metaphorical container, like a journal to write your emotions down, or a candle that holds your emotions for you until you're ready to receive them back and blow the candle out. Finally, notice any strong thoughts that are demanding your attention. And again, you can find a container to place them in until you're ready to take them up again at the end of the practice. Or if they don't need any further attention than this moment, you can simply notice them, honor them in some way, and then let them go. And when you're ready, spend a few moments in silence. And then take one more deep breath in. Hold it for a heartbeat, and then release it. And now, if helpful, you can use the following questions to prepare yourself for the insights and experience of today's practice. What facets of yourself and your life seem unchanging and fixed to you? What qualities or characteristics would you say are the consistent and unchanged parts of your identity? And what facets of yourself and your life seem to change often or regularly? What qualities and characteristics in your identity are you comfortable to change or adapt? What new experiences or ways of being are you attracted to or would you like to bring into your life? Spend a moment thinking about these things. You can pause the video if you want to. And now, if it's helpful, you may want to share in this simple prayer. Today, I celebrate new things. Newborn children, puppies, kittens, and creatures of all kinds, new blossoms and buds on trees and flowers, or newly exposed branches that have shed their leaves, a new chill or warmth in the mornings and evenings, new ideas, new discoveries, new insights, new skills, new companions, new places to explore, and new ways of loving ourselves and one another. And I open my heart, mind, and life to every new, good, true, and beautiful thing that comes my way. So may it be. A few weeks after we had installed the new video projector in our church, one of the members, an elderly man who was something of a traditionalist, came up to my wife, who was the pastor of that church, and he pointed at the projector and he said, "I hate that thing." And when she asked why, he very grumpily responded, "Because now I don't know which of the songs in our services I'm willing to sing." You see, he had a strong conviction that the only songs that were appropriate in church were the ones in the hymn book. And so those were the only ones he wanted to sing, but he couldn't tell which ones were in the hymn book and which ones weren't when we projected the lyrics up on the screen. He seemed to miss the irony, though, that while he idolized the hymn book, he didn't know the hymns well enough to recognize them when they were projected. It's a pretty common thing to hear people lament that they don't like change, which essentially means that they don't like new things, because change is really nothing more than something old being replaced by or being paired with something new. Of course, there are limits. We all love some new things as long as we get to choose them and they are to our liking. But generally, we tend to get into comfortable familiarity with the various elements of our lives, and we prefer to keep things as they are, which means that we all struggle to some extent with what is new. But why is this? Partly it's because how we have evolved as human beings means that our brains love patterns and systems and familiarity because they take far less energy than new things. When we know things well and our routines are in place, our brains don't have to work nearly so hard. We're able to coast through most of our lives on autopilot without our brains needing to do much work at all, which means that we have greater reserves left when a challenge does arise. But new ways of thinking, new ways of being, and new environments make our brains work much harder, even when it's something exciting or pleasurable. But what might we gain from being more open and intentional about not just embracing, but diving into the new? And how can we make nurturing new thinking, new experiences, and new ways of being a spiritual practice without burning ourselves out? How can we become comfortable with constantly reinventing ourselves, with meeting a new version of ourselves on a regular basis, which is what is required if we are to learn, grow, and improve ourselves while navigating an ever-changing world? If you're interested in making a spiritual practice of embracing the new, then here are a few suggestions. But I'd love it if you would share your thoughts and ideas too. So the first thing I think we need to do if we're to become skilled at embracing and navigating the new is to accept the inevitability of the new. When we can accept that life is always throwing new things at us, we can learn to accept and even become good at navigating this newness. Nothing in life is stagnant. From the moment we are born, we are changing. Our environment is changing. Our relationships are changing. And how we think, feel, and act and are is in constant flux. Now, we can try and resist this or deny it, but that's not going to stop it happening. And so accepting that the new is always with us empowers us to enter new situations with curiosity and openness instead of defensiveness and anger. I'm pretty sure I've shared this before, but back in the day when I was still conducting weddings, I used to ask the couples at the start of the ceremony if they would want to be married to the same person in 50 years' time. And they would all nod their heads vigorously. And I would respond, "Well, I hope you're not." Of course, they would look at me confused until I explained that they were both going to change and that they would both be completely different people in 50 years. And so they would need to make space for the changes that they would each need to make. And they would need to work intentionally to navigate the road of their changing lives and relationship together. And then at the end of my sermon, I would ask them the same question again. Do you want to be married to the same person in 50 years? And this time they would shake their heads vigorously, at least if they'd been listening to me speak. And then I would say, "Well, I really hope you are." But that will be because you've allowed yourselves, both of you, have allowed yourselves and each other to change in whatever way supports your growth and wholeness. And so we need to accept the inevitability of the new. The second thing we need to do if we're going to make embracing the new a regular spiritual practice is to practice thinking new thoughts. And I know I talk about this a lot here on Evo Faith, but it's so important. Thinking takes a lot of energy. Our brains are some of the most energy-hungry things in the universe. And so we have evolved to allow a lot of our thinking to happen below consciousness and in automated habits. But the problem here is that our thinking gets lazy very easily, and we stop engaging critically and with any real thought. We operate on autopilot, which may be easier, but soon leaves us with outdated and ineffective thinking. Our models of our world and ourselves become outdated and increasingly incorrect. And so we do well to constantly upgrade our thinking as an intentional spiritual practice. But how do we do this? Well, there are lots of ways, but here are a few suggestions. We can read as widely and consistently as possible and in as many formats as possible. Read books, read newspapers, read blogs, articles, fiction, non-fiction, poetry. And then we can also engage with the arts, not just for entertainment, but as a meaning-making practice. We can see and we can use the arts as myths, stories and symbols that help us to make sense of the world and our place in it. And then finally, we can make a habit of seeking answers, or at least input, to the questions and problems that arise in our minds and our lives. And the key here is not just to ask the question or note the problem and move on. Rather, we need to do the work and take the time to find the answer or to work out the solution, even if we discover there is no answer or solution. Just the act of engaging with questions and solutions helps us to think in new ways. We could probably spend a whole video on each of those things, but hopefully that'll spark some ideas in your mind. And then the third thing we can do to embrace newness as a spiritual practice is to find and embrace new ways of being. It's not just our thinking that changes, our physical and emotional and spiritual capacities and our needs change as well. We all have lives that are unlived. Some of those lives, of course, need to stay unlived, and we won't find any benefit in trying to embrace them. Like my dream of my younger self, that I would grow up to be an architect. For me, that's an unlived life that I'm happy to leave unlived. I have nothing against architects, it just wouldn't have suited me. But there are other unlived lives that are just waiting for us to take them up and explore what they offer. And this doesn't mean we have to give up our existing life. It just means we can learn from our unlived lives what we need to bring into our current lives to experience greater wholeness and meaning and aliveness. Think about how you dress, how you exercise and speak and rest and work and play and pray and whatever. It's a silly example, but I'm always amazed when people seem surprised if I've made a change to how my hair is cut or not cut, as the case may be. It's like it's somehow weird for a man to change his hairstyle. I can't understand why that should be, and for me, embracing a new look from time to time is life-giving and creative and fun. There's a famous passage in the Bible where God says through Isaiah, "Behold, I'm doing a new thing." Jesus spoke about not putting new wine into old wineskins. You see, the Bible is not anti the new, in spite of how some preachers may make it seem. On the contrary, it acknowledges that new things are always happening and that our health in body, mind, heart, and spirit requires us to get good at entering and embracing the new. So what new thing is happening to you? What new thing is happening within you, around you? How do you feel about it? What can you do to be more enthusiastic and intentional about embracing and navigating the new within you and around you? The new isn't going away anytime soon. And your wholeness and fullness of life depends on you being willing on a regular basis to meet the new you. Even as my wholeness and fullness of life depends on me being willing regularly to meet the new me. So take a moment now to sit with this meditation. Notice what stood out for you, what challenged or excited you, and what made you curious or anxious. You may want to make a note to come back to these insights through the coming week. And when you're ready, you may find it helpful to explore the following questions as you respond to today's practice. How can you become more comfortable with the new in your life? How can you more easily accept it as an unavoidable feature of your existence? What benefits have you experienced when new things have come into your life in the past? What risks might come if you resist embracing the new? What unlived lives are calling to you to taste their sweetness? What old ways of being aren't working anymore? What new ways of being might you want to explore? You can think about those questions for a moment, or you can come back to them again and again through the next few days. But now, in a moment of silent reflection, I want to invite you into an imaginative visualization. You may want to close your eyes or open your hands, or in some way just still and center yourself. And now think about one of your unlived lives, or think about some new way of being that you would like to explore. And in your imagination, try to see yourself living that life or embodying that new way of being. Where would you be? What would you wear? How would you talk? What would you be doing? Be as detailed and vivid in your imagination as possible, and then simply let that new experience play out in your mind for a few minutes. Try to live into this visualization and let it feel as real as possible. Don't question it, don't judge it, don't censor anything. Just be in your imagination wherever you want to be. And again, you can pause the video as you do this if you want to do that. And now, as you go into the rest of your week, I encourage you to make some time intentionally to embrace newness. Think of some creative endeavor that you enjoy or that you'd like to try. Even if you don't think of yourself as creative, choose something that feels creative for you. And then through the week, try to create in a new way. If you're painting, choose colors that you would never normally choose. If you're writing, even just in your journal, choose new words or a new style of writing. Write prose instead of poetry, or write like a reporter instead of writing prose, or write with bullet points instead of being a reporter, or write poetry instead of writing bullet points. Just pick a different way of doing it. If you're a musician, try a new instrument or a new genre of music or some new chords. If you love baking or cooking, try new ingredients or new recipes. Whatever your creativity of choice, and however unprofessional or unskilled you may be, just give yourself time this week to play, to try something new, and to make a mess if necessary. And as you do this, reflect on your experience and what it can teach you about yourself, about life, and about the power of the new. Thank you for sharing this practice with me. And I'll see you when we share the next chapter in our journey toward expanding our palette.